Well, this week we're remembering Hurricane Katrina, with this year marking 20 years since its devastating landfalls. While it made landfall in Florida first, the catastrophic damage, it was done along the Gulf Coast, notably from New Orleans to Biloxi, Mississippi. Storm surge with Katrina among some of the most disastrous impacts, that surge reaching close to 25 feet.
Yeah, and 2 decades later, Katrina remains one of the deadliest and costliest natural disasters in U.S. history. At the time, hundreds of organizations stepped in to help, from nonprofits to local, federal, even international government agencies.
And one of the organizations that responded was Ozarks-based Convoy of Hope. Around 1,000 truckloads of relief supplies were delivered to people who needed that help. And we're joined this morning by Ethan Forhetz. Ethan is VP of Public Engagement at Convoy of Hope. Ethan, good morning to you. A storm of this magnitude, as we reflect, overwhelming. But it wasn't just impact and it left. These prolonged effects that we saw as a result of Katrina were notable, and wondering, from a relief supply standpoint, how did Convoy determine where to send those supplies initially?
Well, initially, we got to where we could get. We got to as close to ground zero as we could possibly get. We were in the Slidell, Louisiana area, the Picayune, Mississippi area, 2 areas that had damage all around them. That was as close as we could get initially, and those became our 2 major distribution hubs. And from there, we were able to get to about 75 communities in Texas, all the way over in Texas, in Alabama, and of course, Mississippi and Louisiana. You're right, it was a long-term response. Convoy was there for well more than 2 years, from 2005 into actually 2008. As we responded initially with the essential relief supplies that people need, food and water, hygiene items, baby supplies, and then we moved into mucking out houses, ripping out drywall and insulation and flooring and all of that. And then it moved into the phase where we're helping to rebuild and repair houses for people so that they can begin to get back to life as normal. But it was a very long process.
Yeah, and I think Stephen used the word overwhelming, and I think it's so suitable because nobody could have anticipated how awful, how horrible it would have been and was for these communities, right? You mentioned 75 different communities, which is, I'm sure, thousands, tens of thousands of people that in some way were able to receive that assistance, if not more. And in reading and looking back at what Convoy of Help was able to do, one of the things I saw in our notes was how this disaster reshaped the organization's disaster relief. So I guess moving forward, how did it reshape you and how you approach now these natural disasters?
I think what Convoy learned from that event was that we shouldn't put a ceiling on what we can do. I think prior to that, we thought, well, this is what we can do. We were a smaller organization that long ago. We've grown substantially since then, and we're able to do much more, including this brand new regional distribution center that we're opening this week in the Atlanta area so that we can more quickly respond to these hurricanes that sadly it's only a matter of time before another one hits the U.S. coastline. So one of the things that we learned, too, is a different way of responding. We have what we call points of distribution. So we have this major hub, and in the case of Katrina, we had 2 major hubs set up in these 2 cities. And then from there, we're taking the supply by truck into the smaller towns and dropping off that supply, working with local partners there to get it distributed. So our tentacles grew very much during this storm, and it was really a new way for Convoy of Hope to operate at a much, much higher level than we had been prior to that. This was the biggest response to date in Convoy's history at that time. To be there for more than 2 years shows you the magnitude of it, honestly.
And Ethan, I actually spent some time working in the Springfield market, as I know you did too. Yeah. Convoy of Hope is huge in the Ozarks, being based there, but watching how it's been able to grow over the years. And you do consider, I remember Convoy too, it's not about getting there first, but it is about staying there and making sure that there is this rebuild. You are in Georgia this morning, and this is new for Convoy. I think the fact that this is the 20-year anniversary, the week that we remember Katrina, it is significant. So tell us a little bit about that facility that you were at. It's just adding to the response time, perhaps, that you guys can answer that call for help.
That's exactly. It speeds it up by at least a day. We can get there in half the amount of time because it cuts down all the travel that we were taking from our global headquarters and World Distribution Center in Springfield, Missouri, where you worked in that market as I did. We also have a regional distribution center out in Sacramento, California, that we opened in 2023. We used it even before we opened it to respond to the Maui wildfires, of course, the fires in LA earlier this year. And then even before we officially opened this facility, we were using it to respond to Hurricane Helene, the effects that people are still feeling up in North Carolina. So this is an incredible facility, 125,000 square feet. It's part of a new plan for us to have regional distribution centers to really cut down on the amount of time it takes us to get to a disaster. But that's not all we do. We help year round. We're helping communities as the working poor are struggling to get food on the table. We're helping with food for food pantries, that sort of thing. So it really puts us in a good position here in the Southeast, just outside, we think, the hurricane zone, but close enough to be able to respond very quickly. We have some of our U.S. disaster fleet stationed here. So now we just put our disaster team on a plane to Cartersville, Georgia, a little bit north of Atlanta, and from there we drive to the disaster. It's a game changer, we think, for Convoy of Hope.
And I'm sure that we will see those results. Let's hope that we don't have to deal with a landfalling hurricane, but as we saw with Aaron, right, so close to the coastline, and we're in the thick of it, we'll take any sort of pause in the Atlantic Basin that we can. Well, we appreciate the insight as we remember Katrina. Thanks for joining us this morning. Ethan Forhetz, VP of Public Engagement at Convoy of Hope. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. All right, so Fox Weather Hurricane HQ, we are continuing to chronicle that nightmare that unfolded 20 years ago when Hurricane Katrina tore into New Orleans. You can catch part 2 of our 4-part docuseries, Katrina's Wrath, 20 years later. The new episode premieres tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fox Weather.